5 years ago, my cousin, his friends, and myself drove to Moravian Cemetery and snuck in one fall night. We crept all the way to the private section of the graveyard, all the way to the back, with some flowers to place on the Vanderbilt tomb. We basically placed the flowers on the door of the crypt, as instructed by the urban legend, in attempt to try and rile up some sort of spirit or evoke some kind of supernatural experience, because we heard this was a thing on Staten Island, and we were curious. For anyone not familiar with the Vanderbilt tomb, it is a gigantic crypt in an expanse of the Green Belt that is a private part of the Moravian Cemetery. The tomb is huge, must be at least 50 feet tall, at the highest spire on top, and at least 50 feet wide. It's practically a century plus old, and the oldest church in the woods. After being there for a few minutes and looking around, I placed the flowers down on the door and said something like, "Cornelius Vanderbilt, show yourself," or some freaky shit like that. We sat there silent for a good minute, and we weren't too shocked when nothing actually happened, considering none of us are super spiritual or anything like that. Nothing really happened at all actually, until we started heading back. The crypt is located on its own huge private plot of land on an uphill road at the end of a winding, with what must be some of the oldest trees on Staten Island densely lining the edges of the road. As soon as we started leaving, almost immediately the whole vibe changed. Something was very off, and we all kinda mutually knew it. As we walked away, I remember the wind gradually picking up, seemingly out of nowhere, on what had been a calm, silent night. None of us really said anything. Some of us made brief eye contact with one another and started speed walking back to the car, which quickly evolved into one of those situations where the fear quickly infects everyone in the group, like a startled herd of gazelle running from a predator. To this very day, 5 years later, I have absolutely no explanation as to what we heard in that cemetery that night. Whatever it was, it sounded like it was in the trees and was moving behind us down the road very, very fast. I heard these bizarre wood cracking type of noises, and they started to get louder and louder, closer and closer, following us down the path, to the point where my heart was racing, because I felt like whatever was in the trees was right behind me. That's how loud it got. The wind was still blowing, so these disturbing wood noises were slightly muffled by the blowing leaves scratching on the floor, creaky tree branches, which made it more terrifying because it was harder to pinpoint exactly where it was coming from. At the end of the road, there was a big stone arch, kinda like Washington Square Park, with an intricate iron fence in the middle. We finally get to the gate, running as fast as we can, at this point out of breath. My chest is burning from the cold fall air being pumped into my lungs as I was running from what felt like my life. I was the last in the group of 5 to reach the gate, and as I was climbing over, I literally felt the nerves in my body react as if my brain knew something was about to make physical contact with my back. As if something was about to snatch me before I made it over the gate. There is no chance it could have been any animal. This thing was moving through the trees, and the noises were so loud, it's literally unexplainable. I've never experienced anything like that in my life. I haven't been back there since that happened, although I want to go there and expose some film to see if anything freaky comes out in development. Apparently, a woman was killed years ago by this same gate in a freak accident, but it might just be an urban legend